My name is Carlin Borisenko, and you're listening to the Actively Unwoke podcast. You can find a full archive of the podcast over on my Substack, Carlin, Karlyn, .substack.com. And while you're there, if you appreciate the work I'm doing, please consider supporting it with a membership of $8 a month, $80 a year. You get a wide variety of perks. You can find the full list in the weekly Unwoke Roundup newsletter, and I really do appreciate it. All right, today, I possibly haven't been this excited to record a podcast in like a really, really long time, because today we are going to solve one of the greatest mysteries that has been plaguing me about the far left for probably over a year now. And that is, what the heck is a socialist tattoo? You know, I have a ton of tattoos. If you've never seen a picture of me, you probably don't know this. I have, I don't know, like 10 or 12 tattoos, and one of them is really big on my arm and took 5 sessions, so does that really count 1 tattoo or 5 tattoos? I don't really know, but I have a lot of tattoos. I've been into tattoo culture a long time. I love it. I know it's not everyone's thing. I'm not saying it has to be everyone's thing. I'm just saying that I'm really into this stuff, and so one of the things that I do tend to notice when I'm around other people that have tattoos is I look at their tattoos. I want to see what other people have. And one of the things that I noticed when I was undercover at socialist events was that a lot of socialists had these really bad black line tattoos all over their arms. And when I say really bad, what I mean is it looked like a prison tattoo. And it wasn't like a cohesive sleeve or anything. It was like a bunch of black line tattoos of like random stuff all kind of put together. Now, there are some people who do that with tattoos, but usually it's just a little bit better done, and there's a big difference between a really cool kind of like old school tattoo sleeve with like all the old school designs put together in a way where they work together and they're cohesive and all that, and a whole mishmash of bad black line tattoos. And I couldn't figure this out. I was like, what the heck is it with this bad tattoo thing? And then once you start seeing it at events and things, you start seeing it everywhere. So every time we would be watching like a socialist video of a training, like we do on my YouTube and Rumble channels, we would see the presenters when they lift their arms. All of a sudden, we see these bad black tattoos again. We just started calling them socialist tattoo, socialist tattoo. It's not as though socialists are the only ones with bad black line tattoos, but a lot of socialists do seem to have them. And so this has been a great mystery of my community for a while. And I have to give a big ol' shout out to Nick Incognito. Nick has been a member of my community, I think literally since I started. I think he's been in my community like 4.5 years. He is an original. He is an OG. And Nick did some digging, and he said he was searching for this for weeks, and he found an article that finally, and at long last, explains what is it with the bad black line tattoos. I'm so thrilled. We're going to be reading this article together, but I'm just really happy about it. Thank you. Shout out to Nick. Always been a great supporter. Always just been really active in the community and, dug up a little treasure for us to enjoy together. And if you want, you can find the link to this article in the show notes. It'll be on the Substack, so you can go and see it for yourself. There will, of course, also be pictures in the article that I will do my very best to describe when they are relevant to the article, but really we're interested more so in the description. So here it is. We're going to read it and analyze it together. Why, quote-unquote, ignorant style tattoos are an act of queer defiance. I had never even heard of ignorant style tattoos before, and I'm like in tattoo culture. This is like, I'm blown away that this is actually a thing. A defiant and transgressive act against the status quo, crude DIY tattoos have been taken up by the queer community as a proud symbol of their outsider status. Brandon has a large tattoo on their left calf. According to them, it symbolizes 3 things: riot, weapon, kink medium, and a survival tool, rather. To the unassuming eye, it's a giant bottle of piss. Brandon is a gender-fluid illustrator based in London, and their tattoo is part of a wider trend. You don't say! All over the UK, queer people are picking up stick and poke needles and tattoo machines, using them on their friends, then going professional. The tattoos they're making are crudely drawn, usually have little to no shading or color, and often seek to shock. Dubbed deliberately bad by some, these DIY tattoos have a name: ignorant style. I mean, listen, man, I just have to say, this is one of those things, it's like, I'm not shocked at all that there's an article about this because, like I said, I've been seeing these tattoos on socialists for a year and a half, and I recognized it as a pattern that was showing up in this particular culture, but it's kind of like, sometimes, maybe I'm just gonna, can I just pat myself on the back for a second? Sometimes when I analyze things and I get so close to it and I'm like, I know I'm right about this. I have no evidence that I'm right, but I'm just seeing this over and over and over again, so I know I'm right. It just feels really good to then have an article come up and just prove that I was right, because I've been calling these bad socialist tattoos for at least a year now, and now I'm reading an article saying they are dubbed deliberately bad. Because it's not like one of those things like some people will say, well, all tattoos are bad, all tattoos are ugly. No, you don't understand. If you haven't seen these tattoos, they are objectively bad. And now we know that them being objectively bad is actually the purpose. And maybe it is that tattoo culture just got like too good. Like you can do amazing things with tattoos now. And maybe it is that tattoo culture just got too good, it got too professional, and so of course the socialists, because they have to queer everything, had to then make bad tattoos, I guess, popular again. I'm not going to say great again, because they're really, really bad. Anyway, continuing with the article. To queer people who have them, ignorant-style tattoos are a defiant act against the status quo and a statement against cis-normative dogma. While tattoos have often been positioned as a life-changing decision and therefore requiring deeper meaning and allegorical symbols, many trans and non-binary people have already made permanent changes to their bodies, already feel like outsiders. So what difference is a silly tattoo going to make? I mean, this article is kind of like literally saying, if we've already cut our dick off, we've already cut our boobs off. Like, what, like, you think a tattoo is going to phase us? We've literally already cut off a body part. That's exactly what they're saying. I can see people falling into the trap of thinking ignorant style is just being shitty at tattooing, says Delia, a transgender tattoo artist behind Brandon's Piss Bottle Body Art. I've always loved irregularities and mistakes. I realized my life is just a long series of mistakes, and I've had to figure out how to hold those mistakes with tenderness and make them part of something rather than a feature that's unwanted. They are literally glorifying bad tattooing, and this kills me! Delia's tattoos in character as Diney, a twisted and childlike alter ego whose fixations include anti-capitalism and dead animals. Well, what do you know it? Anti-capitalism and dead animals. I've never seen the dead animal thing on part of a socialist, but yeah, anti-capitalism is something that you're going to see on the far left. Her designs are messy, chaotic, and regularly explicit. One tattoo depicts a Tyrannosaurus Rex with an erect penis. Another shows two flies having sex doggy style. She sees these more controversial designs as a way for queer people to reclaim their outsider status in a world where counterculture has become culture and tattoos are no longer taboo. If you still want to make people feel affronted, she says, then you've got to move into tattoos looking purposefully bad. They admit that these tattoos look purposefully bad. I really had just come to think with this tattoo thing, I really kind of thought they're all just becoming tattoo artists and they're like practicing on each other, or it's something weird like that, and maybe they're doing their best, but they're like beginner tattoo artists and they don't know what they're doing. I really had thought that was like the answer to what this tattoo thing was, but no. The answer is what I said earlier. Tattooing got too good. And it was no longer taboo for someone to be tattooed. Like nowadays, like so many people have tattoos. It's like, I remember when I was growing up back in the day when you walked uphill both ways to school in the snow with shoeboxes for shoes and all that stuff. Like back in the day when I started getting tattoos, my parents were like, you're never going to be able to get a job. And I was like, well, I guess let's see about that. And it literally was never a problem. Like I have so many tattoos and it's never been a problem. And so it's one of those things where like tattooing used to be taboo. It used to make you part of the other. And then it got too professionalized and tattoos got too good and too many people had them. So now queer people, in order to be outside of the norm, have to queer the tattoo to make it bad again. Purposefully bad. Practicing what she preaches, Delia sports equally explicit work on her own body as the designs she gives her clients. One particular neck tattoo depicts a cat holding a knife while urinating and defecating recently caused offense to a passerby. The person was like, why have you got a fucking monkey tattooed on your neck? And I was like, it's not a monkey, it's a cat. It's shitting and pissing and it's going to stab you. Oh God, I hate these people so much. For some people, this kind of attention means they're doing something right. 23-year-old queer sex shop worker Colette, who is covered in ignorant-style tattoos, says stares from cishet people on the streets are the highest form of compliment. I feel the ignorant style is almost anarchistic, they say. It deifies the gentrified tattoo style and embodies self-expression beyond what regular tattoo artists can offer. Yeah, so in order to really truly express yourselves, in the words of queer Marxists, you have to not get good tattoos, because good tattoos that are done by expert artists that have been honing their craft for years and years and years, those aren't a form of self-expression. Do you know what is? Prison-looking tattoos that look like they were drawn like a 5-year-old. That's self-expression, according to the queer Marxists. This is just great. Most of Colette's tattoos are the work of Lewis, a Glasgow-based, non-binary artist whose uncanny style incorporates monsters, scary clowns, and reclaimed words and phrases like faggot and I'm gay as fuck. Lewis says the queer people often opt for a DIY experience because the mainstream route doesn't accommodate them. A lot of queer artists work from their homes or private studios, which is safer for people to whom rooms full of straight male artists are a bit daunting. Tattooing can be really painful, so it's done in a space where you feel comfortable, then it will be a nicer experience. Despite this focus on accessibility, Delia still points to gender imbalances, even within the queer tattooing scene, characterizing it as dominated by trans, masculine people. By the way, we figured this out, I think, last week, that according to queer Marxists, they don't use the word man and woman, but if they're using masculine and feminine, that is a non-binary form of like man and woman to indicate that you veer more towards the masculine or you veer more towards the feminine, but you're still kind of on this gender spectrum, so it still abolishes the gender binary. But if you hear a like queer person say masculine or feminine, they're not referring to man or woman, they're referring to that end of the spectrum. Back to the article. Where the fuck are the trans women, she asks. We're out there tattooing all over the world, but most of the time we're doing so out of our houses. And it's for the same reason we're excluded from loads of other things. People know we're the ones most likely to cause problems. One trans woman who recently moved into tattooing is performance artist Joni, who shares her combined home and workspace with fellow queer artist Jetson, having learned her craft from him. Archival trans and anarchist posters and magazines serve as a key inspiration for Joni's trans anarchistic work, and her most requested design is an emblem that she describes as a visual portmanteau of the trans and anarchist symbols. For Joni, the transgender experience underscores not only the content of her art, but also the way it's made, and most of her clients being other trans people. My studio is my living room, in my all-trans home, and the bed you're lying on is kindly shared by other trans artists who live there. All my work, tattooing and otherwise, feels entirely reliant on T for T connection and care. Joni traces and then retraces her designs without a machine, which results in no two tattoos looking the same, even when they're based on the same flash piece. In her view, it is this methodology that makes her tattoos ignorant. They never look how they should, she explains, just as the bodies they're imprinted upon defy expectation and homogeneity. Jetsoon also sees a link between queer bodies and uninhibited creativity associated with ignorant tattoos. Queer people tend to be really in touch with our trauma, he says. With tattoos, you're making a permanent decision, and I believe whether consciously or not, you're deciding to embrace your body by being creative with it. 20-year-old musician Link first started getting DIY tattoos at 15, and for them, they're inextricably linked to their relationship with their body. The way they see it, my body is already taboo, so I may as well have fun with it. Link's tattoos include a marijuana leaf, the words piss and wasteman, and the National Rail logo. He says that cis people are often preoccupied with whether he'll regret these when he's older, and compares this to the question often posed about medical transition, as he plainly puts it, if I don't regret getting piss on my arm, then I'm not going to regret going on hormones or getting top surgery. These concerns about ignorant-style tattoo permanence speak to cis-normative anxieties around anything that breaks the mold. But by now, the cycle of respectability has been well rehearsed. It feels obvious that over time, attitudes will erode. It's no surprise that queer people sit front and center of this movement, just as we've always been driving cultural change. In the years to come, contestants on Love Island will probably be ignorantly inked, and it will be queer people they'll have to thank. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna endorse anyone get really bad tattoos. That's just a really bad idea. Now, you can always get a tattoo cover-up later, that's true, but listen, man, listen. As someone who has, I've got a couple tattoos I probably wouldn't get to again today, if I'm being honest about it. But you know what? I have a story behind them. I don't regret them. They were the choice I made at the time, but I have since evolved in my tattooing. And let me do, if you're gonna get a tattoo, don't get an ignorant style tattoo. Just don't do it. I mean, come on, it's just a really bad idea. They look awful. Go to a really good tattoo artist. Invest if it's an expensive artist. Like, go to the award winners. Go find, best in area for your tattoo, and go look at their book, and go to a really good tattoo artist, because a really good tattoo is just awesome. And the really good artists are amazing with what they can do. And you don't need to stick around with, hand-drawn nonsense. Leave that for the leftists. And now we know why they're doing it, which is all the more reason why you should always invest in a good tattoo. Anyway, that's all I have. Again, I really appreciate Nick for bringing this article to my attention, because this is one of the things that has really kind of eluded me. I have never found a leftist explaining the tattoo thing, and now we know. Ignorant-style tattoos are to queer tattoo culture. All right, guys, that's all I have. Again, if you appreciate this, head over to my Substack, Carlin, Karlyn, .substack.com. I'll put the link in the show notes for you. You can find a link to the full article, and also please consider supporting the work I'm doing. $8 a month, $80 a year. I really do appreciate it.